Very good afternoon to you. About 10 minutes past noon here in Nairobi, East African time. The show is Diaspora Dispatches, and the topic of discussion this afternoon is Zimbabwe's election and the outcome report. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and it is a pleasure to have you on board. And even before we start, I think there's a press conference to some of our panelists who are supposed to be joining us from Zimbabwe. So maybe we'll just get to hear just a little bit what they're talking about, and then we'll start our conversation and looking at our topic for today.
Representing the teams, in particular the observation that has been out there as the eye for the people in the just ended by-elections. And Madam, so you can make the run for people, just introduce just the names.
Thank you very much. We have Mr. Edmund Masisho from West, and as the Reverend has already been introduced, he's from our Manicaland province, and I'm Florence Busha from the Midlands province. We also have our Mr. Brian, also from the CSCJF executive.
Thank you so very much once more. My name is Abigail Pambi. I'm the Civil Society and Churches Joint Forum National Coordinator. But on this mission, I've been literally neutral, leading the mission on the very, very mandate that we have been given, of course, in terms of the Constitution, and in particular, the Electoral Act. I will quickly get into the introduction. Zimbabwe held this by-elections on the 26th of March 2022, seeking to replace 105 local authority seats and 28 National Assembly seats that fell vacant as a result of death and political party recalls. The 28 parliamentarian and 105 local government council seats that were up for grabs in this by-election constitute 13.3% of Zimbabwe's 210 elected parliamentary seats and 5.4% of the 1,958 local government seats. The Civic Society and Churches Joint Forum, in terms of Section 40G of the Electoral Act, took part in the by-elections as an observer. The organization deployed observers who covered the polls both as enumerators and as observer mobile teams in 6 provinces covering 21 constituencies. This deployment accounted for 28.75% of 1,019 polling stations in these by-elections. For we covered 293 polling stations. Despite it being a constitutional fulfillment, some viewed this election as unnecessary, while others' remarks suggest that it was a waste of resources. Yet, this mission found the plebiscite necessary. The plebiscite served as a litmus test on the Zimbabwean electoral process, paying particular attention to the below key aspects. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission's preparedness toward effective elections. The readiness and commitment of political parties and the electorate in general towards democracy as a model. The role of media, observers, and the international community in the March 26 by-elections. The transparency question in relation to the March 26 by-elections, peace and participation. The pre-poll period, observations of the environment. Following the presidential proclamation, Statutory Instrument 2 of 2022 by His Excellency President E.D. Nangagwa, Zimbabwe entered into the election mode. Noted was the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission's multi-party liaison engagement, from which the campaign season was officially opened. The CSCDF mission took note of ZEC calls for partners, non-governmental organizations, civic society, to conduct voter and civic education campaigns by political parties. 16 political parties took part in the March 26 by-elections. The three top contenders, ZANU-PF, CCC, MDCA, held major rallies across the country. We sampled out 10 of the major rallies conducted by the political parties across the country and noted that 9 out of 10 went on well and peaceful. The mission of ZEC, the Zimbabwe Public Police presence, providing security during the rallies. It, however, laments the loss of a life on 27 February 2022 during the violence that erupted at the CCC rally in Bizo, Kwekwe, in the Midlands province. Media space. In the run-up to the 26th of March 2022 by-elections, media involvement was notable, both private and public media, and must therefore be appreciated as key drivers of information dissemination. The taking over of social media was also noted. Political parties like Leeds, CCC, MDCT, and ZANU-PF took advantage of the digital platforms to amplify their campaigns. Regrettably, we noted a spate of fake news, misinformation, and disinformation. Another dent is that of toxicity, which manifested itself through the media taking the political divide between the state and the private media. The mission noted the media's involvement in the spread of inciting and unverified news, thereby fueling intolerance and panic among the people. For example, the alleged abductions of the former Harare mayor, Ebert Gongo, just 2 weeks before the polls. These allegations proved to be unfounded and baseless. However, the damage had already been made. The availability of electoral information in deployment. The mission noted that ZEC made relevant information available through its offices and digital platforms for members of the public. Though most of the people in rural areas find it difficult because of network problems, of course, it's not habitable for them to access these digital platforms. There was a noted outcry over the quality of the electoral information supplied by ZEC, particularly by the CCC party activists and leadership. Voter education was done by ZEC in other civic society parties. Noted was the invitation and the training of political parties agents by ZEC just before the polls and the media and observer mission accreditation processes. From the 23rd of March, we observed the establishment of ZEC polling station infrastructure, deployment of electoral officers, including security personnel in different places. The mission further noted that ZEC deployment were mainly members of the civil service, with particular focus to those from the Ministry of Education during the polls. The polls officially opened at 700 hours and closed at 1900 hours in all places observed by this mission. This mission noticed the observation of COVID-19 protocols at polling stations, and in some instances there was the presence of health workers. Most polling stations had arrows and directions that visibly assisted the electorate towards the polling station. Few polling stations in Harare are reported to have had poor signage. One such place was the St. Martin's Convent Primary School polling station under Harare Central Constituency. Turned away and redirections and assisted voters. Across the country, there were significantly higher reports of people being turned away or redirected to correct the polling station. There was a higher figure of redirection, mainly in polling stations where there were 2 or more polling stations next to each other. Case of Kambuzuma constituency, Kukuzo polling station, which had Kukuzo primary AA, Kukuzo primary AD, then BA, lastly BB. This actually could have triggered one or two confusion for people, therefore necessitating a number of redirections. We noted a number of turned away people across all constituencies. The reasons basically were their names were not found in voters' roll. Some were actually not bringing the correct form of identification, including, say, the passports. Those who showed up in the wrong polling station were promptly redirected to the correct one. There were also incidents of assisted voters in all constituencies. Regular inspection of polling stations by ZEC and observers and polling agents. This observer mission noted that in St. Mary's constituency, at Jabula War polling station, the Zimbabwe Public Police was taking all observers and polling agents present for regular inspection of the ballot booths to check for vandalism or graffiti being left by earlier voters. This mission also observed ZEC inspectors visiting polling stations randomly and regular to inspect their election officials' conduct and the flow of the voting process in general. This was also recorded at polling stations in Upward for the benefit of other media. We have a number of list of these incidents. Diplomats will also observe visiting polling stations to briefly observe. Other observers noted. We noted the visits of the Swedish Embassy, American, Italian, the Danish, the British High Commission. We also noted the presence of the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission, ZESMIC, Zimbabwe Council of Churches, among others. Incidents of interest to note on the board there. 1. Case in point are from Marondia, Kwekwe Central, Jinga South, Boko Central, and Zengeza constituency. In Marondia Central, at the Motomo polling station, a male senior citizen was redirected to the correct polling station, but he did not respond well to that and made a scene, insisting that he be allowed to cast his vote at that polling station since the official had already confirmed in the registered voter. He did not understand the concept of polling station based voting, thereby actually causing a scene. However, the police managed to put the situation under control. At Zengeza 3 football grounds polling station, one honorable job scholar visited the polling station and asked me to know how many people had voted at the polling station and further information. The time was 11:53 hours on 26 March 2024. Presiding ZEC election officials refused the request, citing protection of the information until ballot casting closes. But Honorable Skara, who at the time was also not an accredited observer, accused the ZEC official of withholding public information. Honorable Skara, who was in company of 3 men, left while making comments of disapproval and on top of his voice. Security forces intervened on the request of the presiding officer and escorted him outside the police station, thereby putting the situation under control. At Arvin Hall in Kwekwe Central constituency, at 18:45, we noted an incident. ZANU-PF and the Triple C youth clashed just outside the polling station. However, security forces intervened and controlled the situation. Weather disruptions were also noted, particularly the rains disturbed the smooth flow of elections in Goko Central constituency. Over Business Center polling station, where polls were stopped at 3 p.m. for 45 minutes due to heavy rain and later resumed for continuity. In Bigger South, election officials had time trying to ferry ballots to the command center since the rivers were now flooded. Case of Chiunga Nounga Ward, which had 2 polling stations, Sinawenda and Siamupa A and B. Results arrived at the command center at 20 past 2 in the afternoon on the 27th of March 2022 due to the flooded rivers, according to the presiding officer. This information was verified by our observers. ZEC officials' general conduct. ZEC officials were observed as polite, attentive to voters in all polling stations visited. They were receptive to election observers. The officials at the polls were applying a uniform and a systematic way of serving the electorate up to the time the voter went to cast their vote in secrecy. Closure of the polls. CRCDF observers confirmed the official close of the polls as announced by the respective ZEC presiding officers to have been declared at 1900 hours on the 26th of March 2022. In the polling stations that still had voters queuing to vote, especially in areas where there had been weather-induced disruptions, the queuing voters were allowed to cast their votes. A short break was observed before counting started. Results. Results were immediately posted outside polling station after counting and verification by all stakeholders represented in different polling stations. Voter apart. A loud silence noted at many polling stations. High voter apart was noted across all provinces and constituencies of interest. On its further findings, this mission noted that several people did not go to cast their votes, and they said their leaders repeatedly told them that there was massive rigging and the ballot stuffing happening at ZEC, which is the Electoral Management Board. So they saw no need to proceed to vote. However, this mission could not find any substantiated evidence to support such allegations or conduct in relation to the said rigging. Some people did not even know that there was elections going on. That led to lack of information. Public relations for the release of results by ZEC. After the release of results at polling stations, some electorates could be seen outside polling stations capturing details of the posted V11 forms. Some sections of the society were visibly seen celebrating their victory way before ZEC's official results announcement. For it is, of course, easy to add 1 plus 1, especially when results are posted outside, right on the walls. No negative incidents were recorded following the immediate period after announcing of results. No contest of results were noted. Recommendations. This mission recommends that ZEC in particular. The first recommendation goes to the Election Management Board, which is ZEC. The electorate needs to be adequately educated for them to know the requirements needed for one to be eligible and eligible voter. For example, in DRC, it may allow the cooperative process, decentralization of this center to go to district level. But we are seen in this process of education, we will need to visit the provincial offices, which is not only costing, but also straining on the part of partners when they want to come on board and assist. ZECMAs are very proper lighting to the polling stations. Some of the polling stations do not have lights, but you have to use the phone lights. This was witnessed in Juarase quite near and the housing cooperative polling station and St. Mary's at Jabula Hall polling station in 2 weeks. While SCDF duly notes the good intention of displaying the voter score, we are concerned about the following issues: security and safety of the electorate with possible loopholes of political intimidation, protection of the electorate's privacy as personal details have been publicly displayed. We therefore recommend that this issue be further interrogated by all stakeholders and implemented differently. That needs to review information dissemination to the electorate after the limitation to reduce number of redirection on voting day. Redirection may actually cause frustration to some of the potential voters in the area that not be voting. There is also need to review the coding of polling stations to give more clarity on identifying them. We had several cases where polling stations would share a similar name, the other one then becomes AB, the other one becomes BA. So it then confuses the election political recommendations to political parties. There is need for political parties to embrace diverse views, tolerate each other, and shun inciting and toxicity in the execution of their mandates. To be the models and ambassadors of peace. To consider taking the lead in voter education guided by the Constitution. Recommendations to media. Media is a key pillar in setting political and international agendas. Therefore, it must be led by the underpinning values of the media ethics, whether it's public or private media, and even social media. A divided media breeds a divided society, and the result is a toxic political environment like what we are witnessing today. Recommendations to the elections. The citizens are encouraged to participate in electoral processes and have their voices heard without fear or fail. To seek and gather the truth pertaining to governance and the electoral information towards enhancing full participation in key processes like elections. Recommendation to fellow observers. Observers to be united and to continue to be guided by the values of honesty and integrity in our role as the eyes of the people in the electoral systems. In conclusion, in summation, the March 26 by-election was necessary and long overdue to replace the representatives of the people in various constituencies in wards. There was violence recorded in part of the 3-4 period. A peaceful pause and undisputed result. There are serious voter outcomes pointing to critical need of attention by all stakeholders going forward. This mission, however, considers this election to have passed the credibility and transparency test. Therefore, the CSCJF mission declares the March by-elections, the 26 March by-elections, credible, free, and fair. I thank you.
Zimbabwe, being led by Abigail Mupambi. She's a regular here. We've been a few months ago we were having a regular
we
show
take this opportunity to invite
from
few
Zimbabwe,
reflections.
and so
And
if
maybe
you've been
also
watching, I'm sure you can her face looks familiar there. All right, so I think they're taking some questions from the media. Abigail, I don't know if you're able to take a few questions from us here before we move on with the show. Abigail? I don't think they're able to hear us, but I wanted to, because we're giving a report on the just concluded by-elections where the Citizens Coalition for Change, the Zimbabwe's leading opposition party, won about 19 out of the 28 National Assembly seats in the long-delayed parliamentary elections. And of course, the state-owned, as ZBC TV reported on Sunday night, that the CCM won the majority in that election. And it will be interesting. I wanted to just get their perspective on a few issues, but I don't think we're... Abigail Mupambi, can you hear me? Okay, so the connection doesn't seem to be very well, so I think we'll just move on. But I think, as I said, they're giving a status update, and according to this, I think the observers of this election, 9 out of 10 of the rallies went well, but also there were some allegations by the opposition that their rallies were being targeted and the people were being harassed by the government side, so I needed to get their thoughts on that. And also the turn-up. How was the turn-up? And what does that mean? And this, outcome that we've seen, is it a preview of what is to come in the 2023 general elections? But unfortunately, I'm not able to clearly get them because the connection is not very good. So maybe that is where we will end the show for right now. Thank you so much for watching. We will have this discussion much another time when we are able to get at least Abigail on the show so that she can highlight and shed some light at some of these questions. For now, thank you so much. Bye-bye.